Here are some scenario-based interview questions for a Scrum Master role, along with possible answers. During a sprint planning meeting, the development team starts discussing tasks that go beyond the scope of the user stories and the sprint backlog. How would you handle this situation?
As a Scrum Master, I would intervene and remind the team about the importance of staying within the scope defined in the sprint backlog. I would facilitate the discussion to understand why these additional tasks are being considered and whether they are critical for the current sprint's goal. If they are indeed necessary, I would suggest moving them to the product backlog for future consideration and maintaining the current sprint focus on the committed user stories.
The daily Scrum is consistently taking longer than the allocated time, and team members are going into excessive detail during the meeting. How would you address this issue?
I would use the opportunity of the sprint retrospective to address this concern. During the retrospective, I would bring up the issue of the daily Scrum exceeding the time box and discuss its impact on the team's productivity and focus. I would facilitate an open discussion to understand the root causes and gather suggestions for improvement. One solution could be to remind the team about the purpose of the daily Scrum and encourage them to stick to the 3 key questions: what did I do yesterday? What will I do today? Are there any impediments? Additionally, I would propose setting a timer to help the team stay within the time box.
The product owner keeps changing the acceptance criteria for user stories midway through the sprint, causing confusion and disruptions to the development team's work. How would you handle this situation?
I would schedule a private meeting with the product owner to discuss the impact of frequent changes in acceptance criteria on the development team's productivity and the quality of the product. During the meeting, I would emphasize the importance of a stable sprint backlog to enable the team to plan and execute their work effectively. I would collaborate with the product owner to find a solution that balances the need for flexibility with the necessity of stable requirements during a sprint. If necessary, I would involve the broader Scrum team and stakeholders to reach a mutual agreement.
The team has been facing recurring impediments that hinder their progress. What steps would you take to address these impediments effectively?
Firstly, I would conduct an impediment review session with the entire Scrum team during the sprint retrospective. In this session, we would identify and discuss all the impediments faced during the sprint. Afterward, I would prioritize these impediments based on their impact on the team's productivity and the frequency of occurrence. Next, I would work closely with the product owner and stakeholders to address the high-priority impediments. If the impediments require external intervention, I would facilitate communication with the relevant parties to find solutions. I would also support the development team in implementing any internal process improvements or changes to prevent or mitigate the impact of recurring impediments in the future.
The team's velocity has been consistently decreasing over the past few sprints. How would you approach this issue?
I would first analyze the potential reasons for the decline in velocity. This analysis might involve discussions with the development team, reviewing past sprints, and assessing external factors that could be affecting the team's productivity. Once I have a better understanding of the root causes, I would work with the Scrum team to identify opportunities for improvement. This might include re-evaluating the accuracy of the sprint planning process, ensuring that the team is not overloaded, addressing any persistent impediments, or providing additional support or training for team members if needed. I would also use the sprint retrospective as a platform to discuss the team's observations and collaboratively devise action items to address the velocity decline. Continuous improvement is fundamental to Scrum, so I would encourage the team to experiment with new approaches and adjust their practices accordingly.
Remember that these are just example answers, and in real interviews, the specific responses might vary based on the individual's experience and understanding of Scrum principles and practices. The key is to demonstrate a solid understanding of Scrum concepts and showcase problem-solving abilities in a collaborative manner.